Hello, I'm Alex Mansfield, the host of Manny Talks Shooting, and welcome to another episode. This is the shooting podcast where I talk to individuals all across the shooting industry. We'll talk competition, self-defense, concealed carry. If you like this content, check out our YouTube channel, Manny Talks Shooting. And without further ado, let's get to this episode. Welcome back, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Manny Talks Shooting, the shooting podcast where I talk to individuals all across the shooting industry. But first, we got to plug today's sponsor. Today's sponsor is Go Fast Don't Suck. So you can go get your dry fire targets, go get some jerseys, go get your t-shirts, go get your memes, stickers, patches, whatever you need. GoFastDon'tSuck.net. And it might make your day a little bit better when you laugh at yourself because you bought all this crap. So anyway, without further ado, let's get today's guest. Today's guest is Mr. Tom Castro of the Tom Castro Shooting Academy. How are you doing, sir? Good, brother. How are you? I'm fantastic. It's a late May day for anyone who actually cares when these get recorded. So, but anyway, if you've been living under a rock, Tom is like taking the shooting world by storm lately, crushing it last year and this year so far. So, good job for you, Tom.
Thank you. Trying.
You're a normal average dude who's just killing it. So, we'll talk a little bit about that today. But first, Tom, who are you and how did you get into shooting?
Oh man, so I am a normal guy, like you said. I'm a contractor, so I do construction for a living. I'm a working contractor. You can't find help in our industry anymore unless you want to, basically find terrible help. So I basically do all the work myself. I have a few guys that I grab every once in a while, do some sub contracting for me. And the reason I started shooting was because I was working 70, 80 hours a week. And I was getting to the point where I was like losing my mind. And I've always needed some kind of competition in my life, whether it's basketball, football, sport, any kind of sports I've always enjoyed. So I was actually at a supplier of mine for molding, and one of the guys shot and he goes, "Hey man, you should go try out this club that's right around the corner from here and see what you think. They do USPSA." I'm like, all right. So I did as much USPSA research as you can. And this was about almost 4 years ago. And all the stuff that we have out now isn't there. So it's kind of crazy because none of the information that I give out now was out locally, or even online. You couldn't get coaching like you can now. So I basically went in. First thing I did was buy a bunch of gear because that's what we all seem to do when we start USPSA. I bought a bunch of gear that was worthless, wasn't any good, and jumped right into the sport. And I shot like a maniac. Like people were like, "Whoa, dude, you need to slow down a little bit."
Mm-hmm.
And that was my USPSA first experience.
So when you first started in USPSA, what division did you start in?
Production.
Okay. So like everybody, when production was big 4 years ago.
Well, I was just going to say that. You got to remember 4 years ago, everybody shot. I honestly don't remember even seeing a red dot before when I started. I wasn't, red dots kind of just took, obviously they were around, but they kind of took over. I would say probably about 2 years in is when I really realized, like, okay, the red dot's the game. Guys were telling me you need to shoot a red dot as fast as you are, all that kind of stuff. So
were you shooting a Canic in the beginning, or did you start with something else?
No, man. The first gun I started was a SIG. I think it's a 226. It's been so long since I've even pulled it out, but I still have it. But it was 9mm SIG 226. That was before the 320s really came out, that long ago. And I tried using that. I put a custom trigger in. It was terrible. Like the whole setup was just terrible. I didn't know how to grip the gun either. So it really wasn't the gun's fault. It was, my fault. But yeah, I started with that, and that's what I had. That's kind of what I always bought SIGs when I first started. And then I went from the SIG to the SP01, which is still an amazing firearm. Love that. I love the SIGs. I think, or I like SIGs, but the Shadow 2s and the Shadows are really, really great guns. But what made me switch was a buddy said, "Hey man, you need to try a Canic." I'm like, "Oh, no way, dude. It's a plastic gun." You know how it is. Everybody tells you that this gun's the best because it's heavy, or this gun's the best because, like that's what they like and all that thing. So that's when I switched over. I tried the Canic and it just fit me really well. I really liked it. Liked the striker fire a lot as well.
Mm-hmm.
So that was a big thing. I didn't have that double action anymore, which, I trained up a lot on the Shadow 2 when I was doing production. So the double action didn't really bother me enough to make me switch. But once I did switch, I was like, I like this, just pull the trigger thing.
Oh yeah, I mean it's definitely nice. I mean that's why people like 2011s and striker
Yep.
fire guns. Same trigger every time.
Yep.
Now, did you think, because you went from those heavier guns to a light polymer gun, do you like the lighter guns more, or do you want to have it in the middle more?
Well, two things. One, my Canic's not super light. So, anybody who says, hey man, I'm shooting a stock gun, they're probably lying to you, because they're not, for our sport, at least, when you do the modifications. So there's a couple things I did to it, which was real simple. I added a tungsten guide rod to it. I put a different spring kit in. I put a commander spring in it because the the spring kit that they sell you with the firearm is meant for NATO ammo. So a lot of people that would say the Canex jam, it was because they're designed for major power factor, factory ammo.
Yeah.
So people didn't understand. They kept thinking that the gun was bad. I was like, no, it's not designed for competition. It's designed for, at that time, they didn't make a rival. They didn't make competition guns. So I had to do some changes to those things. And I put a heavier backstrap in it. That was it. And and I changed the Freedom Smith. I changed to a Freedom Smith trigger only because it ate up some of the trigger movement in the front of the trigger. It ate up some of the play. But other than that, the gun, well, I mean, I guess you can say other than that, because that's pretty much everything you would change on the pistol. But the reason I switched was because I wouldn't grip the gun when I was shooting the Shadow 2. I would get super lazy because I couldn't feel it. And I caught myself, like, as I would shoot it, I'm like, why am my hits just all over the place? And then I realized I wasn't gripping the gun. Then when I switched to the Canic, if you didn't grip the gun, you knew it.
Oh yeah.
So then once I started shooting the Canic, I realized like how much I loved how the ergonomics were, everything about the gun. I love that gun. Like, I can go back to that anytime and be super happy if I never shot another pistol other a gun other than the Canic. So just really like them.
Yeah. So when you so taking it back 4 years ago, did you start like in C class or did you land in B class when you started?
I was a C class and I became a B class within 6 months. I think it took me about 6 months to make B class, but I was terrible. Like, I think about how bad I was, even though I was making B class, it was only because I was fast. Like I always shot like a madman. Like my first major match, I shot 28 mics. So yeah, I mean, but I was fast. I mean, I was super fast, but I didn't know what I was doing. I mean, I think about 2 months in is when I went to the Florida Open. If you know anything about the Florida Open, you don't go there and try to shoot fast because Shannon puts it on you. And that was my first experience with, no shoots and IPSC targets. And yeah, it whooped me good.
Yeah. Smitty puts on a technical match. That's for sure.
Yeah. I like those matches now. At that time, I didn't know what I was even doing. I didn't know I was shooting a technical match. I just thought, let's rip, baby. Like, let's go fast. Some of the guys were just happy when I hit all the targets. That's how bad I was.
Well, it made scoring easier. You didn't have to like, is there a bullet hole?
I had an array of 6 shots with targets that I could shake hands with. And I think I ended up with 2 shots on those targets. And I remember walking off, not even mad. I was just like, man, that was fast. I was terrible. So.
Yeah. So you were always one of those, you were a hoser, always a hoser.
So it's funny because I had a guy when I first started that taught me to not slow down. And that's what I teach. I teach people not to slow down. It's easier to slow someone down. And I don't even use the phrase slow down. It's easier to get someone to focus during that fast time than it is to get them to go faster. Most people who don't have an aggressive manner or attitude when they shoot, it's very difficult for them to go faster because that out of control is uncomfortable for them. And at some point, it feels like you're out of control when you're shooting fast, right? So and I don't mean like 180 out of control. That's not what I mean by that. I mean, as in when you're shooting targets, you don't have this perfect sight picture for every trigger pull. You don't get to look at the target and see a hole and another hole. You can't do that when you get to a certain point. Now, as you get faster, you see it all and it becomes really slow. But that was the key. Slowing down would have just made me even worse in the way I trained. So.
Right. Yeah. You brought the vision and the focus to your level of natural ability speed.
Right. Yep.
And a lot of people, they need that too, because I don't know how many times you hear on a range, the old guy says, slow down and get your hits.
So I had a guy walk up to me once. He was the match director for one of the matches that I would go to. And the guy says to me, he goes, "You're going to slow down and get your hits today?" I go, "Probably not." Because the other guy that was the match director was my mentor at the time. And he was just like, "Dude, don't slow down. Don't listen to any of these guys. They have no idea what you're going through right now. They've never gone that fast before. Just keep going. Trust me, it'll slow down." So it was the best advice that I ever got. And it's the best advice that I feel like I give to my students. But the way I teach it now is a little bit different because I give a little more information than just don't slow down, right? My big thing is embrace the suck. That's one of the big things that I teach is be prepared to suck for a full month. That was the big thing for me, was just learning that I was going to suck. And that was difficult because I am a guy who doesn't like to lose at all. Like, I don't care if it's a local. It was very hard for me to accept that I might not win because I'm trying to get better. So I talk about that a lot. I coach that a lot. I tell people, just don't worry about those locals. They don't matter.
Yeah, they're practice.
They are practice. Yep.
So how long did it take you with that mentality of don't slow down and to get the speed to the vision?
Oh man, I would say when I switched over to PCC is when it changed for a couple of different things. When I went to the PCC, obviously recoil was less. So I was able to start to see faster, right? Because now the recoil, the gun's not flopping all. So to me, the key to my speed or me getting better was the PCC. I know a lot of people hate on PCC, but there's a big value to not having to reload in the middle of a stage, to be able to shoot as fast as you can possibly shoot and just visually catch up and get faster visually. Not, you don't even have to be able to shoot fast. It's the being able to shoot when the gun tells you to, right? And most people don't have that. When you're shooting production, you have three things you're trying to line up, and it tends to slow you down because now you're visually trying to look at paper and look at sights and all these things together, plus obviously confirm your shots. When I switched over to the PCC, I would say it probably took me a good 3 or 4 months before I was like, all right, I get it. I'm fast. I understand. I'm seeing it so much faster. But I had to suffer through a lot of bad hits, right? I mean, it took me 4 months before I was like, I know where I'm messing up. I know what I'm doing wrong. And then after that, that's when it just took off. Like I could really tell that it was like, all right, the red dots for me. Yeah. That was it. Red dots for me.
High cap and red dots. No one wants low cap anymore.
So, I mean, I would actually enjoy production. I think I'm not a big fan of iron sights just because it slows you down in general. But if you gave me ammo, if you gave me 15 rounds, you would probably see people shoot production a lot more. I would probably go back and dabble in some production a little bit more because then I don't have to spend the majority of my shooting reloading. That drives me crazy. I actually enjoyed the strategical part of production, but when you get to a certain speed, you realize like, wow, that really slowed me down. Like it was like all those reloads kind of ruined how much faster I could have went on this stage.
Yeah. Or you see the people who are thinking about conserving ammo and they can't send makeup shots and they're like super methodical instead of actually at speed.
Right. Well, single stack's a great example. It's a great division. It's a fun gun. But man, the fact that you have to possibly slow down because you can't go to 9, right? Or there's no makeup shots on steel. That to me, I know it's strategic and it's everybody's flavor, whatever they like. That's what's great about USPSA. But it's like me personally, I want to be able to rip and not have to worry about sending that extra shot because I was aggressive. That's my mentality, I guess, the way I shoot.
Yeah. And yeah, then you change your whole plan because you sent that extra shot. And then you're like, all right, we're at slide lock the rest of the stage, I guess.
Double reload here. Yeah, that sucks when you have to do that. So
exactly. So you train as a side gig. Have you taken other formal training for yourself?
I have taken one class, and it was the JJ Rakaza class. And it was the best thing I could have ever done for myself because there was a lot of holes at the time in my game. And it was actually was it this year? I think it was the beginning of this year, honestly. And, oh no, not the beginning of this year. It was the end of last year or the middle of last year, whatever it was. And that was that was very big for me because his class, I didn't go to his class to even become a better shooter. I came to his class to become a better coach. And I was thinking, oh man, I'm pretty close to his level. We think a lot alike. He's one of the only guys I've ever wanted to get a lesson from. I didn't really know JJ. I spoke to him just a few times, just like everybody else does here and there. But I took his class and I was like, wow, I'm a way better shooter now than I am. I didn't learn really anything as a coach. It was kind of funny. I got the opposite of what I thought I would get. And it wasn't a lot of things, but it was big breakthroughs for me. And then it changed the way I ended up coaching a few things, and it changed some of my descriptions of things after taking his class. So that was like the biggest thing about his class. I mean, I actually just did a video today to tell my students, like, you have to go to a class, even if it's not my class. I have this series that I started, things that I would change before when I first started. And one of them is I would have taken a class. I mean, I spent thousands of dollars and many hours on the range that if I would have just taken a class, where would I have been within that first year?
Oh yeah.
It would have been like totally different shooter when I was first starting.
Oh yeah. Now, you said you were a contractor. Did the shooting sports just eat up all your money at that point? Or are you still doing okay?
Yeah, I'll tell you, it's at that time, it was really good. Like construction was crushing it. I was working a lot. I had, everything was great. It's funny because I just talked to a buddy of mine and asked me about the Mark 7. Well, when everything was awesome, I bought a Mark 7. So I was like, yeah, no more pulling handles. I did the whole handle pull thing for a little while, and I was making ammo, and I just like, I don't have time for this, because I still have the construction job. But it wasn't, I wasn't making money in the shooting industry at all. But yeah, I mean, it was like, all right, cool. And I spent pretty much all my money on ammo, right? All my ammo. So at that time, I was able to go to the range for free because I volunteered, did a bunch of work. I had access to the range. So, I mean, we had a match on Tuesday, Friday, and I think it was the 4th Sunday. And I was traveling every single weekend to the local matches. Every weekend I would go to a local match. And once I figured out they were practice, that's when I started really changing the way I shot. But yes, all my money went into shooting. And honestly, all my time, my spare time, if I'm not doing something with my kids, goes into this sport still.
Now,
obsession.
Well, I mean, it's a healthy obsession. At least it's not something like, it's not like you're drinking yourself to death, right? It's like it could be a lot worse.
I agree.
We're just all broke because it's on ammo and training.
I agree.
But now you said you shoot Guncraft a lot. Doesn't that mean JJ's kind of close to you locally then?
That's his local club now. So he moved in, I think it was last year. Actually, the class that I took, he had just moved to Florida and put on a class there. So yeah, that was the first class that he just moved into this town, and now he's here.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, so maybe you'll sneak around and maybe find him at the range, maybe.
So I see him quite a bit. We don't really train together. Our schedules are different. Like when he comes in and trains, he only does a few hours.
Yeah.
I did train with him once. We kind of met up and we were out there shooting, and he did some things that changed the way I train before I get ready for a match. I used to do a lot of things that were probably, I don't want to say counterproductive, but he doesn't shoot a lot of ammo. Like I was always surprised by that he doesn't shoot a lot of ammo when he gets ready for a match. That was something that the opposite the way I used to think. I really like to shoot. Like when I practice, I could stand out there for 1,000 to 2,000 rounds, no problem, in a couple hours. But to me, but then he changed that thought process. Like you get one chance at it. Right. I mean, you're going to come out here and shoot 1,000 rounds. Well, how many repeat drills did you just do? How many times did you repeat the same stage? Possibly you don't get those.
Right.
So that was a, little practice thing where I was out there for 30 minutes with the guy, and that changed the entire, it's just keep your ears open.
Exactly.
These guys have a lot of great information.
And I think that's even Graffel does that too. It's just like, yep, one run and we're done.
Yeah. Well, the problem with Graffel though, is that he has 100,000 rounds, and he might do that run one time, but then he does 50 other things after that, at one run. And he just seems to have unlimited ammo but I mean, dude, the guy's the best. So, I mean, that's how it works, right? Yeah.
He's got people loading his mags and ammo at the same time.
That's pretty awesome. Hopefully he doesn't have somebody pull the trigger for him later in life,
You never know.
Yeah. It's pretty crazy when somebody will load your mags for you.
Yeah. So yeah, exactly. So you started in production, you went to Carry Optics, you played in PCC, you're playing in open a little bit. What is your primary division then?
So it's definitely going to be a pistol because I really enjoy PC. I don't think I'm done with PCC. I still have that national title in from the beginning that I really want. But I spent right now I just am really enjoying pistol. I always have. I never really quit on pistol. The reason I switched over to PCC was so that I could get faster. I wanted to learn how to shoot this sport with no distractions. Just pull the trigger, go as fast as you can. Now, my main division is probably going to end up being carry optics, only for one reason. Open is very difficult to afford it for two things. One, you can't find anything anymore. Like I'm having a hard time finding the powder that I use, HS6. And if you can find it, it's completely ridiculous in prices. So I'm not going to go completely. I might be broke, but I'm not going to live in a cardboard box to shoot a division. Right. A lot of guys have asked me, man, if you shoot open, what are you going to get if this gun breaks? A Canic, right? Like I'm not, unless there's some sponsorship out there that makes it worthwhile, then it's not worth it to me because I like carry optics. Like I have no problem shooting that for the rest of my life if I never had to pick up an open gun. That being said, I really like open.
Yeah.
So if I could get a gun that was going to never break, which they all do, but if the financial stuff would kind of even out with carry optics, I would absolutely shoot open, I think, over everything else, just because it fits my style of shooting. There's no waiting for the gun. It's just let it rip. You know what I mean? Just let it rip.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Now, at what point in the season last year did you pick up the open gun?
Let's see. I picked up a borrowed open gun the week before nationals. And I borrowed a buddy's gun and I shot 200 rounds out of it. And then I went to nationals and I got 23rd. So I got pretty lucky there. For sure.
Yeah. Well, what carry optics? What, you were 20 something, weren't you?
Yeah, I was 20. Man, I think I was 27th. And the reason I was because day 2 was horrendous. Day 3, I shot like a national champion. Like I was so frustrated with myself after that match because day 2, I fell apart and I changed some things that morning before I went to the range that I didn't usually do. I didn't eat breakfast. I didn't really stretch or like kind of get warmed up. So when I came in, my brain and my physical weren't working together. Like I was in 2 different locations. It was very frustrating because I worked my ass off to be ready for that match all year long. I shot nothing but carry optics and I dropped the ball. So
now, what zone did you shoot on day 2?
Zone 2, the easiest, simplest area. I dropped the ball. It was all the technical stuff that I'm usually like really zoned in on. It just wasn't there. It just really wasn't there. So it happens though. Like it's funny because the hardest zone was 3. The hardest zone was 3, and I murdered that zone. I mean, I don't know. It was kind of weird. It was just, I mean, I know what it was, but because I talked to JJ after he won and he was like, what did you change? And I said, well, I didn't do this, this, or this. And he goes, well, there you go. You changed a bunch of stuff that you don't usually do. And I was like, damn it. Like now you tell me, right? Like, so it just is what it is. But man, was that a great match or what? How many great shooters were at that range?
Oh yeah, a lot of national champions there.
Holy crap, man! That was a hell of a match to be going against everybody.
You're looking forward to this year though, too, aren't you?
I am, man. That's one of the reasons I switched back to the carry optics. Not just powder's a big thing, but the reason I switched back to carry optics is because it's first, and it's a very important match to me. Honestly, at the level I'm at right now, if it's not an area match, it's practice. Like even like some of the bigger level 2 matches that I've been going to lately, they're practice to me. I mean, obviously I want to win everything, but I'm trying some stuff out. I'm using different things. I'm trying to work stuff out. My goal is nationals 100%. I'm trying to shoot those matches more like I would at nationals than like I would at a local, kind of stuff like that, because nationals is really what matters. That and area matches matter obviously, but level 2s, a lot of these level 2s are like our local matches, right? They just put a 2 behind the name of the match.
Fair enough. That is true. So yeah, do you like Talladega or do you think it could be better?
I got to tell you, the doubling up of base, I'm not a fan of. Like the one thing about Frostproof that was nice was, if you're going to do an all carry optics match like that, you can really stretch it out and do, individual stages. Talladega, I like Talladega. I think it's a great range, but I don't think it's as good as everybody thinks it is. To me, I don't care about the clubhouse.
Yeah. Or the rifle range, right?
Yeah. Everybody talks about how great some of these ranges are. And I'm like, dude, you're just the clubhouse that I spend 10 minutes in. I don't care about, right? Like I could care less. I like the award ceremony. I think that's great what they're doing with the Talladega Speedway where we go there. That's really cool. That's a different experience. But, again, I mean, we're all it's kind of like sitting in under a tent, right? Or a shed. It's not like there's any interactive cars going around or, that kind of stuff. You just kind of all hanging out and talking, you know what I mean? It's no different than if we were at Frostproof doing the same thing under a big shed.
Yeah, exactly.
But I like that range. I just don't think I wish we had the extra bays that, from what I was told, they were supposed to have extra bays and I guess they never built them. So, which isn't USPSA's fault. It's, the range is the one that controls that, but we missed out on a few bays. The few extra more bays would probably make that place, worthwhile.
Yeah, agreed. It's got to be nice since you live in Florida. It's not too far away, so it's not like a huge time commitment.
No, it's not too bad, but I'll tell you what, it's because of the shooting academy, sometimes these trips take me a little longer because I try to come in a day earlier and come and video all the stages. So one of the things that I do for my master members is I always I try to walk all the stages before I shoot. So while I'm walking stages, I break down how I walk them. And then I talk about, what my plan would be, so on and so forth. And then I follow it up with, after I shoot the stage, I show my stage runs. And it's pretty crazy how sometimes a lot of those stage plans change from the original stage plan, just the little things. So it's, I think it's a good learning process because it's something I didn't have, right? It's anything that I didn't have that I could have used, I put into my group. I think it's important.
Oh, absolutely. And you're cutting out a big leg for those people too. Like they don't have to think about some of these things or they'll neglect them because you're giving it to them. So,
yeah. The funny part is everybody makes the same mistakes. Everybody. Like this isn't like a C class to a grandmaster, like, oh, only C class does that. Everyone makes the same mistakes. It's just the levels of speed, the levels of, how many times do you do it? Sometimes there's things that everyone does and the grandmaster only messes on it once, but then another guy will go to every position and do the same mistake every single time. That's kind of but we all do the same mistakes. It's really crazy because you're like, he did that. It's like, oh, and that guy's a grandmaster. He just did what the C class guy did. It's just part of it. We all have the same kind of body. Like we're all working with the same movement and the same situation where you're trying to shoot the same arrays and targets and all that.
Mm-hmm. Now, on nationals, did you shoot PM, AM, PM or AM, PM, AM?
All right. So I don't really like saying this publicly because sometimes it makes it harder to sign up, but I'll say it.
Mm-hmm.
I shoot whatever the super squad shoots.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason why is because I want to know where I'm at. I don't look at the scores, but I want to shoot on trophy day. And what is trophy day? PM, AM, PM. Mm-hmm. If you shoot in the morning, I'm going to jump off the balcony wondering how I did the entire afternoon. So
you'll be on pins and needles all day. Right,
I would much rather have my own fate in my hands. Right. Now, again, I can't change what somebody else shoots anyway. I can only do what I do, but at least I know where I'm at going into the last day compared to, all right, cool. Now I have to set the pace. Instead, I can just go and shoot and not even think about it because I know where I'm at before I even got there, kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm a big trophy guy. I don't care about the trophies, but I like trophy day. I like showing up on Sunday when the pressure's the highest and crush it. That's big to me. I really like that last day of the match where you have to perform, put the pressure on. Let's go.
Exactly. Like, I think you've made a quote. It's like, you're just picking up the trophies on match day.
That's it. Yep.
Just picking them up.
Yeah. I learned that. I learned a long time ago. You actually win your trophy in the parking lot.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. It's all here. It's in your head. It's in your head. I remember a guy telling me once, he's like, man, you win your trophies in the parking lot. I go, what do you mean by that? He goes, everybody knows you're coming to the match, dude. Like, they're all like, oh, Tom's coming. And I'm like, yeah, that's right, baby. You know what I mean? Like, that was a confidence booster for me. Like, why am I thinking about those guys? They have to think about me. And that's just kind of one of those confidence builders that I gained while I was shooting. I was like, all right, now I just have to go, execute. That's all you can do. I can't change what anybody else says or does. I can't change the way JJ shoots or Max shoots. I can only do what I do. And if you go in there thinking, oh man, JJ Racaza or Max Michel's here, you've already lost. You've already lost. That's it.
Yeah. Now, how big is the mental game for you then?
Right now it's huge and that's kind of a breakthrough I've had this year. I used to think it was mostly shooting, right? And at some point in your shooting, the mental game isn't as important, because if you don't have the fundamentals and the ability to shoot fast and all those things, then the mental game it doesn't take the forefront, right? It's kind of pushed back a little bit, and then you're working on your skills. But eventually when you get to a certain level, it's all mental, because you already know how to shoot. You already know how to move. You already know how to stage plan, all those things. And then it turns into 100% mental. So now a great example is the match that I just came from was the Mississippi Classic. And I was very fortunate enough to win that match by 3 points over a gentleman, Garen Singleton. And he's awesome. He's a great shooter. I knew he was shooting, but I didn't look at his scores. And I knew that I was coming out of open with 0 practice and going directly into carry optics. Now, that isn't usually a big deal, except the timing was off. So the open gun that I have is really tuned to be really flat. The carry optics gun isn't. It's just not, right? It's not the same. It doesn't work the same. So my timing was a little bit off on the way I would shoot the gun. The reloads and all that stuff it is what it is. That's all fundamentals. It kind of goes back to the same thing. But man, when I started shooting, I have never shot so many makeup shots in my life ever since this match. But I knew towards the second half of the last day that it was really, really close. And all I had to do was just do me, shoot what I shoot and not worry about what he did. He was on my ass the entire time we were shooting. He followed me. He was actually in the squad behind me. So he knew exactly what I had. He knew exactly what he needed to do. The last 2 stages, I shot them consistently and won the match by 3 points. I didn't try to change the way I shot. I didn't try to change the way he shot it. I just did what I did. And that's all mental. That is 100% mental. I didn't try to focus on more alphas or less alphas or go faster. I tried to just do what I always do.
And that's what all you can do is, you can only focus on you, right?
It's easier said than done, though, unfortunately. Like, that happens a lot. Like, it's very difficult to explain to people, like, you cannot worry about what somebody else does. Until the match is over, what are you going to do anyway? You're going to go over and trip the guy, or you're going to wish on a no shoot on the dude? Like, you can't. You're like, oh, no shoot, give it to him. You can't do that. You know what I mean? You have to go and do what you do anyway. So can you go faster? Sure. But if you can go faster and be accurate, why the hell weren't you doing that from the beginning anyway? Right. So a lot of this stuff where people are like, oh man, I look at the scores and that's how I change the way I shoot. I'm like, so you could shoot better if you wanted to? I don't understand. You know what I mean? Like, why not just shoot better all the time?
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. It doesn't make sense sometimes when I hear that stuff.
Now, exactly. Now, with your schedule, and you shooting a bunch of locals and majors and whatnot, what does your actual training schedule look like?
So right now my training sucks. Unfortunately, I haven't been able to do a lot of training because of between the construction and this last month, I was gone every single weekend. I had a class in Texas. I had a class in South Carolina. I shot a match in Texas. I shot a match in South Carolina. I just went to the Mississippi Classic. That's a month of, I think I had one single weekend that I wasn't gone. And I worked during that week. So it has been just insane with my traveling this month. Next month is I actually have a little bit of time off. So I'm going to go back and start training a little bit, but I run a local match with a buddy of mine, John Newhoff here in Florida. We run a first Sunday and a third Sunday match at Guncraft, and I always shoot those matches. So I don't really practice per se on for those. I just, shoot them. And a lot of my stuff now isn't really, I hate to say this because it sounds terrible, but when you get to a certain level, you don't practice as much, right? You just kind of dial things in. You don't, like, I still do dry fire, stuff like that, but I I don't have like this huge regiment of I need to work on movement or I need to work on this or work. Now I'm just fine tuning things, making sure that my grip's good, reloads are tight. If I start to have a little flaw here, like I was really struggling with steel at the beginning of the year because I wasn't visually shooting. I was instinctually shooting. I was just swinging the gun over and pulling the trigger when I was supposed to. So that like little things like that, when I start running into little problems, I'll change my training. But other than that, man, I haven't been able to really train. I'm hoping before next month, I will get to spend some time and actually train. But when I do train, I usually go out for a couple of hours and I work on long distance. I shoot everything at 25 yards. I shoot everything with small poppers. I don't even bring a big popper out. I shoot nothing but small poppers. I'll shoot 25, 35 yard shots. And I try to shoot them like I would shoot a match, like an array. I try to shoot 8, move over, reload, do some other stuff. I move and shoot at 25 and 35 yard shots, things that I would probably never do. But if I need it, I've got it. Right. So that's kind of how I try. A lot of hard cover. I don't shoot a lot of no shoot stuff because when you see a no shoot, you tend to slow down. I shoot a lot of hard cover and try to shoot it at the speed of my sights.
It's good. Yeah. And honestly, distance is what probably kills a lot of people. I lose a lot of time on distance because they're not comfortable making those shots or minis. For some reason, people don't like 25-yard mini poppers.
Well, here's the thing. If you can shoot a 25-yard mini popper, so my average draw on a 25-yard mini popper with a hit is 125, right? 1.25 seconds. Now, people are like, there's no way, that's crazy. Well, why is that crazy? It's because I draw the gun fast and take more time to aim. What I see a lot of guys will do is they throw those really long shots. They draw really slow to get a perfect grip. Well, if you get the gun out faster, you have longer to aim and then you still have a fast time. Right. I see that all the time. So when I practice at like as if the target's 15 yards or 10 yards. Because what happens is if you start shooting things that are 25 yards and you get good at 25 yards, everything inside of 25 yards is ridiculously easy. Easy. So I see a lot of guys practice at 10 and then they'll say, maybe I'll try a little bit of long distance instead of focusing on the long distance and then letting the inside stuff of 25 yards be your confidence builders. That being said, before we get off this subject, because this is important, this is something I teach a lot. When you first start learning something, don't make it difficult. Don't make it difficult. Keep the targets close, stay up close, learn the process of what you're doing, slow down to learn it, and then pick the speed up. Don't start crank. If you're trying to learn how to do a good draw, don't start off with a quarter of a second draw and try to shoot. Get the fundamentals down first, get everything right, and then pick up the speed. So, but a lot of times I don't want people to misunderstand what I mean by shooting those harder targets. When you get to a certain level, you have to start adding those harder targets in. If the close targets are easy, you need to start, making it more difficult.
Right. Adding some layer of difficulty. If it's distance or hard cover, what say you? Yeah.
Practice should suck.
Yeah.
Like practice should suck. Like it should be hard. And the reason why is so when you go to a match, no matter what they give you, it's easy. Right? It's super easy. If you go to practice and it's like, oh man, I got all alphas, you're going too slow, right? You're not making it difficult enough. I mean, obviously we all want alphas, but if you're not like pushing yourself, you're not pushing your transition speed or all those different things, then you're not actually practicing. You're just shooting, right? You're just shooting.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. A lot of people just seem like they just start shooting at this point.
Well, I mean, it's fun.
Oh, yeah,
who doesn't want to go and be successful at it, right? Like I love when I go out and I'm like, hell yeah, it's an all alpha day. What did I do that I didn't push hard enough, or I got a few Charlies or a few Deltas? And I mean, obviously when you get to a certain level, you're going to be able to perfect it a lot more, but there's a reason why Grandmaster is 95%, because that's your average of, your success rate. You're almost never at 100. If you're 100% successful, I'll probably quit the sport because that means it's getting too easy, right? Like then I'm not challenged. And that's what we do this for, is the challenge. And well, that's what I do it for. I love how hard this is.
Especially at the deep end of the sport.
Yeah, man, that's I've learned a lot this year going against the big boys. Like I've learned a lot. Like Casey Eusebio put an ass whooping on me at Area 6. And I'm pretty motivated.
Yeah.
I'm pretty motivated. He shot an amazing match, but when does he not? Right?
Mm-hmm.
Like all those guys, like they just don't make a lot of mistakes.
Yeah. And he's half your height, and he's half your size.
Yeah. Well, you know what? I had 2 stages that I would love to have back. I had one controversial stage, but it was still my fault. I sucked and created that controversial stage. But I had 2 stages that I could not get rolling in the morning for whatever reason. And it cost me big on day 2. I mean, we were neck and neck. I think I was only 5 points behind him on day 1. Day 2, I basically lost the match in the first 2 stages. I just could not get my head out of my butt for that, whatever reason. So, hey man, it is what it is. It's a learning lesson, you know?
Absolutely. And speaking of Area 6, it was kind of interesting to watch your video. I think it was 3 people overlaid, or was it just you and Chris?
So that was South Carolina.
Okay.
It was me, Mike Wang, which is amazing shooter, by the way, and Chris Tilley, which everybody knows that guy's amazing. So he has a track record that doesn't need anybody to explain how good he is. But Mike's a newer up and coming kind of guy. He's in the super squad this year. I think he was 12th last year. And yeah, man, it was a cool stage. It wasn't my favorite stage of that match because I lost it by 3 points, but but it was a fun stage because you really I don't do math in USPSA, but the way I shoot is if I have to wait on something, it's pretty much guaranteed I'm going to leave it because I already know it's going to be not worth it. But in that scenario, I was having some physical issues. My hips were really bothering me. I had just traveled to Texas, drove 15 hours and then 15 hours back the weekend before, which was stupid. But that killed me. I mean, I just physically, by the next weekend, I could barely move my hips and turn. And that stage I had to squat down. And when I stood up, I was just point it brown because if I tried to move and shoot, I know I was going to hit a no shoot because I couldn't physically like get up the way I wanted to. So I kind of shot it brown on a couple targets. I actually had touching Charlies. And I shot just a few too many Charlies on that stage to take that one. But yeah, it was did you watch that video? What'd you think of those?
I liked that. It was interesting to see, top guys shooting it completely different ways. Yep. Well, yeah. And what were the disappearing targets? I don't think I ever saw those.
So the disappearing target was just a drop turner, and it would drop twice. The reason why that stage was interesting, and shout out to my buddy Todd Holmes, who actually ran that match. He set it up to where there was 4 alphas on that. You could get up to 4 scoring hits on that target. That's what made it very interesting, because if it was only 2, I guarantee a win on that, the way I shot it, because it wasn't that was a lot of points though, that Mike got over us, and he was able to shoot it a little bit slower, but he had better hits. And that was the big thing. But most people thought that the max trap was the key. It wasn't. It was a swinger on the right-hand side. So there was a swinger on the right-hand side. Tilley had to wait on it. I actually ran it short, so I didn't have to wait on it. And Michael, he pulled a horseshoe out on that one, buddy, because he ran to the back corner and that damn thing was standing right there for him. I'm like, you lucky bastard. It was just luck of the draw. I mean, he shot it amazing, but he didn't have to wait at all. If he would have waited just a split second for that thing, I would have had it. I mean, I only lost by 3 points. So, but it was interesting, man, because the ROs were like, I wouldn't leave it. Everybody's shooting. I said, I don't care what everybody else does. I was like, I do what I do. If I lose, it's on me. But yeah, it was a really cool stage.
Especially when you had to get on the goddamn ground and shoot. It's like pretty much the start of the stage, fucking getting on the ground.
Yeah. So there was a couple guys that shot a rifle, and they ran basically my same stage plan. They ran around to the back right, but what they did is they laid down on the ground and shot it underneath, like they were sniping it. And those guys looked like they came out of a cheese grater. Like they were all scratched to hell. That place has got nothing but rocks on it. I mean, a couple of the guys, I was like, bro, what? And they're like, yeah, that stage over there, I laid down. And one guy laid down, he looked like he did the worm when I was like, oh my God. And I saw the video and I was like, man, that's a great dance move though. But yeah, he ate shit on that one a little bit. So it was not
hot brass and rocks, right?
Yeah, I was like, that one's gonna hurt for a little bit.
Yeah. So that's gotta be the worst one too, when it's the first of the day and you're like, now I'm all dirty.
Yeah. So that was my last stage of the day. So which was kind of cool because I knew at that point I didn't win the match. I had a problem on stage 1. And I knew that, at that point, me and Tilley were really close, but Mike was kind of, I don't want to say pulling away, but if I didn't do well on that stage, the first stage of the match, stage 1, then I wasn't going to have a chance to catch Mike, because that was the one stage where he made a mistake, but I did too. So I actually had a mag fall out of the magnet, or off the magnet, and that cost me the stage, because I was actually crushing that stage. All the guys were like, man, you were up there faster than anybody else, which is what I needed. I knew I had to push a little bit on the running part, but doesn't always work out.
Exactly. And that's the unfortunate part, when something out of well, I guess it was in your control, but something silly like that.
Yeah. It was under my control for sure, because for the first 10 or 15 stage plans that I walked that, I said, grab the mag. But every time I grabbed the mag, I went for a reload. So I was like, if I grab the mag, I'm going to reload on accident. So just don't touch it. It'll be fine. It's on there. It's a good magnet. Well, the problem is when I was running really hard, my legs hit it and knocked it off. So it is what it is, man. It was a mistake that I learned from. So I'll make sure from now on I stage plan either to grab that son of a bitch and hold it and not push the mag button, or I'll figure out another way to put it in the gun or on the magnet.
So. What did you think of the half day staff reset match?
I like it a lot. It's I honestly think it's the future of most matches. Its scheduling's really difficult though. I mean, at the end of the day, part of the reason why I think that match went as well as it did was because they didn't sell out. If they would have sold out, I think they would have had a little bit more difficulty getting away with that schedule wise, but they had a really good match last year. Same exact thing. They did a half day format last year, and they were able to get it done. So I think it just really matters on how you schedule that Sunday, right? The Sunday's tough. If you have any delays, there's so many things that go into a half day format that can be frustrating. Even lunch for your staff, like talking to Todd a little bit, if food truck gets behind, it really can mess up your whole schedule.
Yeah.
Good staff matters. Like, they have really, really, really great staff there. I mean, really, really great staff. Those guys are on the ball. It was the best match I've shot this year for sure. 100%. It was the best match I've shot all year.
Now, saying that it's been the best match you shot all year, what could have been better?
So you mean as in for that match?
Yeah.
I would have liked to have seen him not close the range early on. I don't want to say early. Okay. That's just, I don't want to say early, but I would have liked them to have not have closed the match or the range the day earlier at 6:00. Now, the staff day, those guys work, right? So like Todd's the last guy off the range. When I got there, it was like 2 or 3 o'clock, and I didn't get a chance to walk all the stages. So if I was there first thing in the morning, I didn't get the opportunity to walk the stages. Now, that's on me because of what time I got there, but it just sucks when, there's guys that drive 4, 5, 6 hours to go walk stages, and then by the time they get there, the range is shut down. So and again, it's not a 24-hour range. So those are like little things I would like to see improved. That's not even really a complaint. It's just things I'd like to see improve to where maybe the match books from now on say, hey guys, range closes at 6. The Mississippi Classic I just went to, the match book didn't say anything about when the range closed. So a couple guys showed up, they drove 4 hours to get to the match. And when they got there, they couldn't walk stages. They had to turn around and walk out. So, little things like that. I'm trying to think if there was anything that I would the roads there suck. Like, they're really super dusty. Again, these are all little things that you can improve on, but I don't know how. Like, what are you going to hire a water truck?
Yeah, or concrete your road or something, maybe.
Right. I mean, but that's the thing that Duda was putting. Go Fast Don't Suck was out there, had their tent, and every time you drove by, they were just covered in dust. It was just dust everywhere. Now, again, that's little things like that. But is that going to keep me from going to the match? Hell no, dude. I'll go back to that match every year. That's the second year in a row I've gone, and it's gotten better every year. It's gotten better every year. In the 2 years that I've gone, it improved a lot from last year. A lot. And last year was great. I didn't even have any complaints about last year. So for the fact that I went this year, it was a great match. I think they do a great job. And I think their staff is phenomenal. I think that staff does an amazing job. They work really, really well together. And this year they did 5 different stage builders. That was, to me, that should be the future of USPSA. You should never have one match builder, in my opinion. You should have multiple match builders so that the stages are not your style, right? They're not your style, period. Like nationals last year, I really enjoyed Carry Optics Nationals, but you could tell there's one builder for this zone, one builder for this zone, and one builder for the last zone. So you're not really getting a variety of, you're getting 3 different zones, but you're not getting, you know, you could possibly have 12 to 18 different designers on those stages. And you can start that process as soon as the match is over, right? Like just open it up, guys, send us your designs and then pick through the stuff. And I mean, hell, some of it's going to be terrible. You know that, like, it's just part of it. But there's a lot of guys out there that have great ideas to put things down on the ground.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And it's nice to get different. You get new people building stages. You get them involved. You get them motivated into the sport. This is a lot of people.
Think about if your name was called or your name was on a stage. Like, oh man, that was my stage, bro. I built that stage. Like I designed that stage at nationals. Like that. I mean, a lot of guys would appreciate that, you know, and like to be part of that. They might not want to work nationals but I mean, that's still contributing back to the sport a little bit. And I think that's part of the problem we're having now is you're not appreciated a lot of times for contributing.
Right.
You know, you're just rode into the ground until you quit. You know, you get rode into the ground, baby.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, it sucks is when that happens is then people get burnt out. You got the same people. Luckily, like for me, an example, our home club, we've got 4 or 5 CROs. We all design stages for our local match. We all show up for 2 days to set up the match. So we set up on a Friday night and a whole all day Saturday just to knock it out. And it's nice because no one's ever getting truly burnt out. No one's got to build more than one stage.
So who runs your match? Do you guys rotate that?
The match, yes, it sometimes rotates between a couple of guys who then would be the match director. The other guy then gets shafted as the range master. Yeah. And then the other guy gets put on his stats.
Right. So you have an opportunity there as a team to never have the responsibility at all times. So if one of you guys goes out of town, somebody can pick up the slack and kind of help each other out.
Yep.
Yeah. So that's the same thing we do here. We have a core group of guys. It's me and John are the guys that run the match, that are in charge of the match. But we have a couple of guys that help, that are always there. But if they don't make it, then we just pick up the slack and build 2 stages or whatever we need to do. So recently, my buddy got married. John got married and was out of town. And I ran 2 matches when he was out of town. And then I was out of town this month. So he ran 2 matches. So it works out great to where we kind of just pick up the slack for each other, but it's never like, oh man, it's all on you all the time, every single weekend. And I think that's something that needs to start being explored more by match directors. I think a lot of match directors don't ask for help, right? And they don't explain it to the other shooters like, hey man, you don't have to do everything, but if I need you, could you help me? Can I rotate with you? Like, and that way everybody gets an opportunity to kind of spread the wealth of labor, right? If you want to call it wealth.
Yeah.
So I that's kind of cool. Where are you? Where's your match at?
You'll be shooting that match at Area 5.
Okay.
We shoot at Brooklyn. So.
Okay, cool. Nice.
Yep. So I was excited to finally join the club. I got lazy. COVID kind of was like, oh, I'm going to join the club. And then COVID hit. I was like, oh, no, I'm not going to go shoot a lot. So yeah, this year I finally pulled the trigger and decided, well, I'll join the club, get super active. And yeah.
Did they have a lot of issues with COVID for USPSA there?
No, we changed some of the policies. So we only do online payment now for like even our local match.
Right.
It's convenient. It's not convenient when you don't show up, but it's decent. It seems down in Michigan, like shooters are down. So if I went through like the whole roster for like Area 5, like you might have 10% of the shooters are from Michigan.
Everybody else is coming from out of state.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That was a big goal for me this year, was to travel around and go to places I've never been. Like areas that I've never shot. So like Texas, I had already been, but I had never shot a match there. I just shot a local. South Carolina I had been, but this year I'm going to Area 5, Area 8, Area 4, which is in Oklahoma. I've been to Oklahoma, but I've never shot a match there. So that was like, I'm doing a lot this year for traveling around. So going to different parts of Texas, because if you go to one part of Texas and then you go to another, it's another state anyway, even though it's under Texas.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I have a class later in the end of towards the end of August that is right on the border. So it's actually called Coyote Arms, if I remember correctly. So I was like, that's hilarious. Like, you know, the guys that are coming over the border are coyotes anyway. So it's just so hilarious because I'm like, did you guys do that on purpose? I see what you did there. You know? So, but it was really cool. I've never been there, so it'll be kind of interesting to go check out that part of the country. It's really neat.
Yeah, and that's honestly, it probably makes people even better shooters is get different flavors of different regions, because not like for a while Area 3 was the circus show, you know, and it was super like it was super clownish and stupid stuff. I mean, Area 5 has its flavor. And it's actually kind of cool to see like the flavor locally here kind of spread down to like the southern part of the region, like in Kentucky. That's because our section coordinator Walt designed stages for nationals. He's inspired a lot of CROs and batch designers to think a little bit more and how they build stages and design things. So it's kind of really cool to see that as well around. So.
And that's what I mean. That's why I think it'd be important to make it. Obviously, I don't want any more rules. We have a lot of rules in USPSA. But it would be nice if we started opening up our mind a little bit to multiple stage builders. Even if you don't use their stages, at least take in that input, bring those shooters' input in and get that different mindset of how they see stages. Like there's a lot of guys that like IPSC. I haven't shot a lot of IPSC, so I don't have an opinion of a like it or don't like it. I've shot some IPSC and I liked it. It was fun. But would I say it's better than USPSA? I don't know. I haven't shot enough of it. But then you have guys that just love speed shoots. Okay. So now you have guys that are going to be willing to build speed shoots. You have guys that want 32 round stages. You have guys that want mid-range courses, you know, or that mid-size course. That's awesome. Now you have a variation of all of it, right? You have a variation of all of it because a lot of guys like South Carolina was a good example. It was a high round count, right? It was a high round count match. Every stage was in its 28 to 30 round stages. I mean, the fact that I was shooting open and had to reload was like, yes, like we have to challenge an actual reload in open. But it's been a long time since I've seen that. A long time. And this whole thing where they're like, oh, it's because of ammo. That's bullshit. Like that's bullshit. If you're going to shoot a USPSA match, you should be ready to reload.
Oh yeah.
Right. I just like you should never dummy down matches or stages because of rounds. So at the end of the day, your average local, how many stages do you guys build for your locals?
6.
So you have 6 stages. So it's probably right around 150 rounds, maybe 125 rounds.
Yeah. Yeah. About there.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let's just say we bump that up to 30 round stages. I mean, really? So now it's 160 rounds, right? I mean, okay. So you added an extra 25 or 30 rounds. Man, that broke me. I'm out. I can't shoot USPSA anymore. You know what I mean? Like we've gotten to this point now where we're trying to save ammo for everybody, but everybody's still shooting that wants to shoot.
Right. And honestly, I think in my opinion is it's like you have to have a better quality stage, not necessarily more rounds, but you got to have a better quality stage, different ideas, different options, and actually valid options. Not like, yeah, you have the option to do this dumbass thing, but
how about this? Left or right?
Yeah.
I always say that's not an option, that's a choice, right? Like that's not you're not really making a different plan, you're just going a different direction, right? So yeah, I see that a lot. I saw that a lot I see that a lot now. There's a lot of guys who are like, man, but if I go left or if I go right, I'm like, yeah, but everybody's doing the same plan. It's just you're running the stage in reverse or the other way. It's not a different stage, you know, down a different stage plan.
Absolutely. It's definitely, yeah. And honestly, even if people, contributed stages to nationals, you don't have to use it, but you could tweak it because it could have a great idea and just has to be tweaked and executed a little bit better and be like, there's a stage. And you only had to put half the work into it.
Yep, absolutely. It's just different ideas, different perspectives. I know a lot of the times people will build things and they have blinders on, you know, they're like, this is what I want to work on. That's how I build stages. I build stages on things I want to work on while I'm shooting, but all my stuff's really hard. So like, I want to work on difficult things. So I'm going to build a difficult stage, and not to where it's impossible, but I'm going to build a stage that challenges you because I don't want an easy stage. I want it to be difficult. You know, that's the whole point of building stages, to get better.
Absolutely. Yeah. Now, how do you feel about shooting boxes?
I'm good with them, man. Like, listen, it's very difficult for me to understand why shooters complain so much about like stage designs. People don't build, right? So you're going to complain about a guy who actually volunteers and builds.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So to me, shooting boxes is just like anything else. I built a stage the other day when Tim Herron was at our range and he was throwing a class. So I built this stage to where it was all focused on movement, entering and exiting, entering quick, having your gun up, all those things. That's what I was working on. And he goes, oh, 1986 wants your stage. He wants their boxes back. He actually wrote it on the stage brief. It was hilarious. And I'm like, cool. Like, okay. Right. Like it didn't bother me at all. I thought it was hilarious. But it's like things like that, like where boxes aren't legitimate. Why not? Isn't it a stage? Isn't it a shooting area?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a shooting area.
It's a shooting area. So, I mean, if we got rid of boxes, then we would have to overbuild. So, I mean, what do you mean by boxes? Like, what do you mean by like, do people complain a lot about boxes or?
There was locally around here an issue with one club be like, there's your, here we're going to shoot. Here's your box.
Okay. So that's different.
Mm-hmm.
That's lazy. That I would have a problem with, right? Like if there's no thought process put into those boxes or the shooting area, that's just lazy, right? That's a totally different thing. I would be very irritated by that.
Mm-hmm. Well, especially when you spend, you spend all day driving there. You give your match fee, you spend all the ammo, and you're like, I was in a box all day.
Right. Yeah. That's one of the reasons I hate classifiers. And what I mean by that, or I shouldn't say classifiers, but classifier matches, because most of our classifiers are designed for standing and shooting. Now USPSA has made a little bit more effort towards moving and shooting, which is great. But that's what our sport is, right? Like it's all movement. There's a majority of our sport. I shouldn't say all, but the majority of our sport is movement. So why doesn't our classification system reflect that?
Mm-hmm.
Now, there are a lot of classifiers that have movement on it, but most people don't know that. There's a lot of classification. I didn't even know this until I started doing some research. Like, where are all the movement classifiers? The problem is it's from box to box, right?
Mm-hmm.
You would run from a box, reload, run to a box, or multiple strings on those movement. And as a local, multiple strings crush your timing. Like as in running the match.
Oh yeah.
So a lot of those get discarded and don't get used because you can't have the time for them.
Exactly. Yeah. You don't ever have the time for them because you're right. It kills the match flow.
Yep.
Most of the time we put those easy setup ones in just because it's convenient. Not necessarily. I think we shot El Prez this year. I wasn't very happy about it, but it was okay because people bitched about our matches not having a classifier, and we're like, okay, we'll put one in. But we put it in with another short, like we doubled up in a bay and put like a short course and then the classifier, so it equaled out on timing of a medium or a long course.
Right.
So.
Yeah, they should just get rid of that classifier.
Yeah,
that classifier has been shot a billion times. It's been grand bagged a billion times. It's it's not a very good classifier for what we do.
No, not anymore. I mean, back in the day when they were shooting 45s, maybe a different story. Now, if people did like new old El Prez or Vice El Prez, Vice Prez. There's some different ones. Go do the random ones that nobody does, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, it's what we're trying to. So for me, I try to put everything we can for movement. I try to make all the classifiers that we have. We have one a month. We do it every third Sunday. I try to make sure that we don't have any standing and shooting classifiers. I try to make. I just want to shoot things that I would shoot normally in a match. Yes, we will have some standing and shooting, but most of those are going to be speed shoots, not 4 targets stacked together with a bunch of no shoot in the middle kind of thing. It's just not my favorite kind of shooting. That's all.
Exactly. Now, Tom, we're getting near the end of the show today. I do have a couple more questions. So other than the area matches you're shooting, what other majors besides I guess also nationals, which other ones are you shooting this year?
I'm shooting area 6 or area 5, area 4, shooting area 8. I'm going to go to, we have a local match here. That's a level 2. It's a Doc Welt, which we shoot here just about every year, but I only shoot that really to hang out with my friends because it's not a big match for me. It's kind of one of our local level twos. Let's see, what else am I going to? Carry Optics Nationals, Open Nationals, which I'm kind of on the fence about that one still, but it's just frustrating because of the way things are going with that match. It's going to be the most expensive nationals they've ever had because of where it's at. Colorado is extremely expensive. I don't think there's an airport anywhere near landing, like in that area. I think it's going to be a couple-hour drive. So that's frustrating a little bit. I'm pretty sure Grand Junction's a couple hours from an airport. I haven't done the logistics on that thing. I signed up already, paid and all that stuff. Have to get someplace to stay, obviously, but it's going to be one of the most expensive. And now after seeing this thing with the magazines, I'm a little concerned with that. I haven't done a whole lot of research on it, but a couple of my buddies were kind of talking about it and how, you know, you can get a misdemeanor for bringing the magazine in. And everyone's like, oh, we got a letter from the sheriff. The sheriff doesn't matter when you fly into an airport, right? If they get you before you get to that sheriff's area, you have an issue. Weather. Not a big fan of shooting in the snow. You're in
a Florida boy.
Well, I like cold weather, right? I really do. I like cold weather, but we're going into the mountains in October. I used to hunt quite a bit. Around September in the mountains, it's very unpredictable what your weather is. In the middle of September, it could be 90 degrees one day, and then you could have a snowstorm the next day in the morning. So it's a very unpredictable thing. Now, am I that guy who's going to bitch and complain about it? No, I hope it goes well. I really do. I want it to be successful. I really love nationals. I'm excited about this year for shooting nationals, but could we not have thought that one out a little bit differently? You know, like, is there no, you're telling me there's no other ranges in this country that we could have figured that out for? I don't know. And I'm not a guy who says, let's have nationals at Frostproof every year, because I don't think you should. I like that we spread it out and give other people opportunities to be able to go to those matches. Cause there's guys out on the West Coast that don't want to fly to Florida. So I you know, that kind of thing, but yeah, that's pretty much my year. I think national. Oh, and then IPSC, there's going to be a couple IPSC matches here in between nationals in September. I think that it's the Pan American Games. I'm going to try to shoot that. I signed up for it last year, but they kept changing it around with COVID. So I think that's my year.
Yeah. And yeah. So are you going to shoot open for those IPSC matches then, or?
Great question. I'm not sure. I probably will. It really just depends on, I think it's after nationals, Carry Optics Nationals. So I might just shoot Carry Optics because that'll be the gun I'm used to.
Fair enough.
It really depends on if I'm ready or not. That's the big thing to me, man. If I hate going into matches unprepared. And I feel like when I switched over to Carry Optics, I had one stage where I had 5 makeup shots. That's because my timing's off. I'm not prepared. And I hate that. Like, I just feel like I suck when I do that. So I just like to be prepared and ready to shoot.
I mean, yeah, and that's, everyone should be prepared to shoot. Know what you're going into when you're coming into it. I guess test your gun before you go too. Don't be like, or your ammo, be like, yeah, I'm totally gonna be fine. And guess what? You're shooting sub-minor ammo, you dumbass, and you're going home without a score.
Well, I didn't, and that's funny thing is I didn't chrono my ammo before Mississippi because I had ammo from when I was shooting it before. So I was like, well, it's got to be good, and it ended up being 135, so it was perfect. I mean, it's a little hotter than I would have liked, but I was like, this is perfect. It passed chrono. That's the perfect chrono speed.
Yep, exactly. Just pass chrono.
As long as you're over, baby, it's good to go. So
yeah. Now, would you got to pay the bills, I guess, essentially. So who are your sponsors?
So I shoot Brass Monkey Bullets. Really, really like Jason Pratt is one of the best people I've met in this sport. He is amazing. He is the guy that really kind of changed my attitude about how you should be treated as a sponsored shooter. And the funny part is even though I'm sponsored by him, he treats everybody like they're sponsored. So when the pandemic was going on and everybody was taking 3, 4, 5, 6 months to get you bullets, he had them to you in a week. And it wasn't because he wasn't busy. It was because he worked his tail off to get those orders filled. So it was pretty amazing when people are asking me and he's sending them out within 2 days of them making the order. So there was a couple there that they ordered and within 24 hours, it was out the door. So that is customer service that's unheard of. The guy's pretty amazing. So Zero Sports for my jersey. Ray is I actually went to Mississippi Classic because of him to try the match, and he sponsored the match and was able to get me in so I could come check it out. and got to sit down with him and his family. If you are looking for a jersey, they're the way to go. I don't know why anybody goes to some of these other companies that are $75 to $85 for a jersey that are outrageous. His jerseys, it's like wearing nothing. You dry out so fast when you're sweating to death. He just makes a great product. So my next sponsor, I'm still waiting for that contract. I'm still waiting for that Plastic Fantastic Can contract, baby. I still want those guys to represent me, or I want to represent them, whatever it is. So I really like that gun. I'm not sponsored though, so they don't pay the bills.
Not yet.
I've been trying, man. I've been trying. So
yeah, that's true. That anybody else?
Nope, that's it, brother. Me. I'm self-sponsored to TCSA, Tom Castro Shooting Academy. They sponsor. That has helped. I don't want to lie. That has helped quite a bit to keep me in the sport. So, and
where can people find you if they want to get training? Set up a class with you in social media.
So my social media is Tom Castro Shooting Academy. Tom Castro Shooting Academy. It's on Facebook, on Instagram. If you want to check out the Insider Circle, which is my online course, it's tcsacoaching.com. If you go on to there, you can check out this is how much I trust my training program. You go in there, sign up for 2 weeks, no questions asked. If you quit within your 2 weeks, there's no charge, but you go in there and get 2 weeks of free training. Check out all the videos that I have. I mean, I don't know how you wouldn't go in there, at least try it. It's 2 weeks free. So you're guaranteed to learn something. I guarantee you'll learn something in the first 2 weeks. There's hundreds of videos in there. I do mindset stuff. I do shooting foundation. And see, for me, movement is a fundamental thing. So I kind of teach a lot of the movement stuff in there. I talk about how to enter, how to exit, my philosophies, all those kind of things on, what makes me what I am as a shooter.
Awesome. So if they want to hit you up, go hit up Tom, get a class going. I know he's got a little bit of time he'll make for you and get a class. What do you need for a class? 8 people, 10 people?
Yeah, 8 to 10 people. I also do private lessons here in Florida. I do them here at the Guncraft, represent those guys. I guess they don't really sponsor me, but I do use their range for a lot of my training. So I'll shout out Guncraft because it's one of the few ranges in the state that you can actually run around with a holster and not actually be a USPSA shooter. You don't have to have certifications or a CRO or anything. Obviously they make sure you're competent, but it's one of the best ranges for running around with your pistol and your holster, man. It's one of the few left. Hopefully nobody messes that up because they're pretty amazing. But yeah, I shoot all my videos out of that place. That place is amazing. They really support USPSA. The guy who runs the place, and his family owns it. He's a USPSA shooter, so that helps a lot as well. I mean, they have really supported us in buying equipment, everything. It's an amazing range to go to. They're small, but sometimes that's good. Sometimes that's good.
Yeah, sometimes you need that small unheard gem, right? You got to just keep it in the back pocket.
Yeah, it's a great place to shoot, man. It really is. I hope that they are around for the rest of my life because that is definitely my home range for sure. That place is amazing. They treat us well. Like we have access to go in there and practice and coach and train and JJ's coaching and training there out of that place now. So there's a lot of talent in this area right now that lives here. Shannon's here. A lot of guys have moved to Florida. Well, Shannon's always lived here, but a lot of guys, work out of that range now.
It's awesome. It's good to hear that. Tom, I want to thank you again for coming on. It's been a fun one. I've learned a lot. I'm assuming the listeners will learn a lot too. So I want to thank you for your time. And I appreciate
it, man. Thanks for having me on. Sorry.
No, you're good. It's, the power of the internet, right? But thank you listeners for checking this one out. If you learned anything, hit up either of us, tell us and leave us some comments or whatnot. Until next time, guys, get out and do the things. And I'll see you on the next one.